Hello there survivors and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today I'm building this Greek-inspired temple using the Astraeos Structures, which is a companion mod to the new Astraeos modded map, which has some amazing landscape and of course some very strong Greek vibes, so this feels only right to use. If you enjoyed these build tutorials, of course don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave suggestions for future builds you'd like to see down in the comments below. With that being said, let's get into the build. And of course, as usual, we're going to start out with a foundation. You want to raise this a fair amount above the ground if you can. And then we're going to make a 6 wide foundation like this. And then we'll go out by 12 long in total. So quite far, and then we can just go across and make this whole square complete and start filling it all in so that we have our decent foundation to start working from. So we'll just go around filling this all in. Of course, if you can't find a nice spot where you can place all the foundations down, you could also just make pillars and ceilings and walls to make a platform, but you will need a foundation of some sorts of 6 by 12 in total. So this is what we should end up with. And then here on the right side, we're going to go in by 4 foundations, and afterwards we'll place one more and we'll go out by 5 in total. So like this, and make this 4 wide before going back in to our main foundation. So it's going to be a little side building that we can also then fill in with our foundation. So it's going to be a 5 by 4 added to the 12 by 6 that we already built. Okay, then it's time to bring out the pillars. We're going to add one right here on the corner, and we're going 4 high in total like this. We'll do that on the other corner as well, same height. Then 2 in. We're going to bring up another pillar 4 high, and then another one right here. So this is going to be the front pillars of our temple. Obviously here on the other side, we're going to do the same thing as well as the corners. So we bring all these pillars up by 4 in total. And depending whether you want to build like a bigger platform outside here because you're integrating it into a bigger build or a city or whatever, you could have more foundations around. Otherwise, I like to make sure that at least these pillars on the corner go all the way through down into the ground. That will just make them look a little bit nicer instead of floating. We don't really have to worry too much about the ones in the middle, although you can of course go ahead and do the same thing, but we will be adding stairs in as well, so you won't see it as much anyway. Then we're going to go here on the outside. We're going to have, after 2, we're going to add another pillar that goes 4 high. Again, making sure to connect it down to the ground if you don't have anything connected to this build. Another gap of 2, we'll have another pillar going 4 high, and so on and so on. So we're basically going to do this for the entire side of the building here, all the way, and it should line perfectly up with the pillars on the other side of the building. On this other side, where we do have the little addition to our build, we can start the exact same. So we'll start here with a pillar going up 4 high, a gap of 2, and another pillar going 4 high. Then we'll start on the other side first. We'll actually also make this pillar, and then we can do this one as well. Just all the same thing so far. And then over here, we're actually going to add in 2 more pillars, just a gap of 1 though, to create this gap of 2 in the middle of this addition. Here on the side, we'll actually also add in our pillars. We're going to make them 2 high after this gap of 1. Of course, connecting it back up to the floor if you don't have anything around. Then a gap of 2 to get the pillars, and another gap of 2 for a pillar here on the corner as well. And we'll repeat the same process here on the other side, making all these pillars 2 high like this, and that should give us a little bit of a guide. It might be a little bit confusing, but trust me, this is going to be for our build, just making it a lot easier so you don't have to switch out materials all the time. We need a few more pillars. We need one up from the front. We go in by 2 and we have another row of pillars right here on this side. And the same thing actually here on the other side as well. These are the last 2 pillars that we need so that we can start with the build. We can take out our stone gateways, add them right here in the middle, at the front, and here also on the back of the building as well. That's going to be the entrances to our temple. And then we can start filling in the walls right next to the gate, all the way up above the gate, and on the other side as well, of course, all the way up to the top on both sides. So we'll do it here as well, so we can fill in this entire wall just like this. And then here on the side where we have no addition, we can actually fill in the first wall all the way up to the top. And then the other side of this wall, we also can fill in the first one all the way to the top. Here we can have the bottom one going all the way through, and then also the top one going all the way through like this as well. Then we'll change to our double doorways, fill in these last remaining bits like so. We can add in our doors like this, and that will be our windows in a little bit. Here on the other side, we can of course fill in this bit all the way up. Same one over here, just filling it in all the way up to the top. We can actually also fill in this smaller wall right there in the middle like so, and the top 2 layers over here. Then we take out our slope walls and add them underneath like this. Then we'll take out more double doorways, and we can actually start filling in these walls like this, all with the double doorways. The other side as well, we can fill in all of these ones, and then we'll add in the actual doors. I promise this will all make sense in a little bit when we start changing the skins to the right textures. Okay, then for this side bit, we're gonna need a few more pillars. First of all, we're gonna add 3 here in the middle, and then here we're gonna add a few as well, being 2 high like this to finish the front of this bit. We can then take out quarter walls and go all the way across the top of this part of the building, all the way up to the front part. We'll do the same thing here over on the other side, continuing all the way up to the front. Here at the front, you can actually take out some ceilings and fill in these first 2 layers like this. And then we can also go along the side and add in our ceilings like this to create a little bit of an overhang on the outside here, all the way up to the front. Then here at the front, of course, we'll start adding in 1 layer of our quarter walls like this all the way across. And then we can actually add 2 more up here at the corners like so. We can have our normal walls in the middle like this. And then we can take out our slope walls like this. 1 on top of there and then on top of there. And then we continue the same pattern over on the other side, so you get this weird mountainous shape of a building. We'll take out some more slope walls. We'll add 1 right there and right here to create kind of curves. We'll do the same thing here on the other side and over here as well to create these curves here. Then what you might want to do here on the inside to kind of work away this little open area that you would otherwise have, unless you want to make, I mean, a ladder or something up there. But you can fill this in with our quarter walls like this. Add 2 up top there, 2 up there. Then a normal wall like this. Add our slope walls, kind of repeating what we did on the front of the building. Like so. There we go. Now, and then we can actually take out our ramps and we start filling in the ramps all the way like this. And of course, we want to go up like so to kind of fill in this entire roof on the one side. And you can choose here at the end whether you do want to make an overlap and have it overlap by 1, or maybe that you prefer keeping it just like this. I'll leave that completely up to your own preference. And we'll do the other side here as well, filling in these ramps so that we can get a whole roof in place. So stone or other material ramps all the way through like this. And I know it looks crazy, but once we start changing the skins, it will look a whole lot better. And then just to finish off this area, what you might want to do, either you connect it with more foundations to your other builds, or you might want to add in the stairs. You can either do them here at the front, or you can do them here at the side as well, depending of course on your location, your build, whatever you want, whatever you need. You could technically also do both, but personally I think it looks better if you pick which side you want to enter the building from. And if you want, you could actually add in some railings then here at the front or at the side, depending on where you chose to do the stairs. And now we've pretty much completed this side building, so let's start updating some of the skins. First of all, we'll take out the normal first variation and we'll start adding them on the foundation pieces here to change them into the nice Astraeos textures like this. And then we can also change these in here. Of course, these side slope walls, we can change them as well. Right here too. There we go. Then what we want to do is we want to change all these quarter walls like this on the side. And on the other side, we want to do the exact same thing. Change all these to the new Astraeos textures. Then we go to the second variant. We can fill in the stairs on both sides like so. We can change all these slope walls to create some lovely curves like this. We can fill in this pillar as well. And we can change these quarter walls with the nice patterns over here. Like so, all of them. And we can change these ceilings on the side, these ceilings inside of here as well. And of course, these ones on the other side of the building too. Then here on the top, we can of course also replace the ramps with the nice new roof texture. So all the way across, we want to update these to turn them into the roof texture for the ramps like so. And then here on the front, we can also change our quarter walls all to this new texture like this. Then we'll take out the third variant and we'll start changing all these remaining bits. Finally, creating the nice shape here on front of these temples. And then here in the inside, we of course want to repeat this pattern, turning them all into the third variant as well. Turning this one in the third variant, and all these pillars can now be changed too, as well as the doors themselves, not the door frames, just the doors and the pillars will change into these skins. We'll do that here too, all of them like so. And of course, if you have them sticking out on the outside, you still want to all change that too. So we'll just go around changing all these skins to the right pillars. And then you might have noticed that these look weird, so I turn these around. So you flip them and then you get some nice pillars with the fancy little details at the bottom, which for the side bit at least we're going to use, and I prefer this look. So we'll change all these to be the right orientation. And then we take out the frontier skin to replace these door frames with. Of course, if you don't have it, you can also use normal wood, but this matches the grades quite lovely. So of course, we make sure to do that on both sides of the building, like so. And then we get a nice little side addition to the temple with those grates as walls. What you also want to do is make sure that the outer opening is disabled so you can actually walk by the wall without it always flinging open like a door. And there we go, that's the side addition for our temple. Then for the full temple, we have a little bit more work to do, of course. First of all, we can also add in the stairs. In this case, I would always do it on the front, unless, of course, you're connecting the temple up to more of your city. Then you could leave it out, unless you want to have it a little bit higher and raise it a little bit compared to the rest. So we'll fill in all of these. We'll, of course, fill in the sides with a sloped wall. And once we've done that, of course, we want to make sure we do the same thing on the other side of the building. Here on the front, we'll add in some ceilings from the wall to the pillars to connect them like this. Of course, we do that both on the front and on the back of the building to connect the pillars and the walls together. Then we can take out our little quarter walls and go all the way across and around the building. So we want to fill in one layer above the current walls and across these ceilings and at the front and the back that we've just placed in like so. So we're going all the way around, placing in all these little quarter walls, basically to create a little gap, a little bit of distance and detail between the pillars and stuff and the actual layer where the roof starts. Kind of like what we did for the side building, but now of course on a slightly bigger scale for the main building itself. So yeah, we just continue all the way through, and then only the last little bit of connecting these quarter walls across to the other side until we reach the corner. Then we want to take out our ceilings once more, and on the side of the temple we're going to add a little overlap outside. So just ceilings from this little quarter wall that we've just placed, and of course we're going to do the same thing here on the other side, just having these ceilings on the outer layer like this, continuing all the way to the corner. We can take out our little quarter walls, add them here in these corners like so, connecting the middle up with a nice tall wall, and then on top of these, after the first wall, we can add in 2 more here and 2 more over there. We'll take out those slope walls now. We start making this pattern all the way through to the other side, basically creating that weird little mountain shape as we did before. Here on the other side, we're going to kind of do the same thing. So we have our little quarter walls right there, full walls in the middle connecting it all up, and then 4 more quarter walls right here in the middle before taking out our slope walls and starting that little mountain shape up all over again to connect up these different pieces and basically create a nice shallow roof, although it looks like a mountain right now. Then we want to start our roof, and we basically just want to go along here. I would probably have the overlap on the outside since it's a slightly bigger building. It does make a little bit of sense, so we'll connect it just one outside of this wall that we've built here on the front, because that is going to just look a little bit nicer. But again, if you don't want that, or you prefer the other look, or for whatever reason, there's plenty of reasons to not want to do the overlap, and the building will still look quite nice. There we go. And then we just start filling all of this in all the way through to the other side until we have the whole roof made out of these ramp pieces. And right now, of course, it's going to look like it's not really matching up with the shape that we've built with all these slope walls. But of course, as soon as we skin it, just as with the side edition, it will all work out once more. So yeah, we basically go around the whole roof now, filling in all these remaining ramps so that we have, in fact, a roof over our little temple, and we can start thinking about what you want to keep inside of this. So we'll do this all the way to the end here. There we go, filling them all in. And of course, the other side is going to be the exact same idea. Just follow it all through, filling in all ramps all the way until we reach the other side and actually have a nice roof above our heads. And of course, depending on where you use this space, you might want to add in some gates to the actual gateways as well. You could, of course, also add in some kind of doors on this side, maybe change this up if that is something that you need. All right, with that, we've got pretty much the whole build done, and it's time to start skinning it. First of all, we're going to start with the first variation here on the side of these stairs, changing in these slope wall pieces. Then we can also start changing the bottom of all of these pillars like this. There we go. We can change the gate itself, and we can continue changing all of these as well, like so, like this, the slope walls on the side again. I'm gonna fill that all in, and this one as well. The bottom layer of the walls, we also just want to change to our first variation skin so that we get that nice little brick part of the bottom wall before it goes into the smoother wall in the second half. So all the way around like so. Then the second variation we can start using on the stairs like this. You can also use it for the foundation. So we'll fill in the front right here. We'll also fill in the front on the other side of the building, so all these foundations can go. And of course the stairs themselves can go as well. Then these middle parts for the pillars, of course, we will need to change to these second variations too. And we're basically going to do that all the way around the structure. So all the way around, changing the middle part of the pillars to the second variant, so that we got that nice little pillar column sticking up nicely to fit the Greek style, of course. And don't forget about the inside here. Actually, we also need to change these, and then of course the bottom layer we kind of skipped over here, and then we can start making this curve as well, filling it all. And then we can also fill in the entire foundations, of course, on the inside to already get that good look here. And then these second variations, we can actually fill in most of these walls. Of course, you can also use some extra variations if you want to create some more details, because there are even more than the 3 basic variations, of course. But for now, we'll just fill it all in like so, all the way across. And of course, let's not forget about this part as well to fill in all of that very nicely so we get the right look. Then we can go to the third variant. If you did have the pillars below the foundations, we can add the third variant there as well. But mostly, of course, here to the top, as well as to the top layer of the walls. So we'll change all these pillars to the third variation and the top layer of these walls, so that we're already getting quite a nice looking temple indeed. Again, don't forget about all these pillars that we've made. If you did continue the pillars down in the staircase, you can actually update those as well to make them look nice. And of course, we'll go around the side doing pretty much the same thing. So continuing the wall, the top of the pillars, like so. But then also changing these pillars next to the foundations to make them all look nice as well. So just make sure to do a good check and see if you've changed all of these textures that we can reach all the way across as well. All to the third variant to get that nice little bit of detail and the amazing tops of the pillars. So just these ones in front, and then we should have changed most of it. Let's also check this if we change all of these skins, but I think we came pretty far indeed. Then for these ceilings, we want to change them to the second variant right here underneath, or I guess the first variant if you prefer that look, but I kind of like these for these ceilings. So we go all the way across along the side as well before filling in these ceilings as well with the second variant, because basically right now we want to make sure that we update all of the different skins to slowly but surely turn the whole building into that nice Greek style. So here on the side, we actually just want to add in the first variant on these quarter walls that we've placed. So nice and clean like this. We'll do the same thing on the other side of the building. So just changing them all to that first variant to create a nice clean little border between the walls and the pillars and the structures above. Now here in the front, we want to change to the second variation. We'll fill in all of these. We'll fill in this entire thing with a little bit more detail in these ones. There's as well. And then of course this little row up here too. Then the third variation, we can change all these, as well as of course changing the slope walls into the more shallow variant. So we should end up with a temple looking like this on this side. And of course, we're going to repeat the same progress here on the other side of the building. So changing these all to the third variant, changing these ones to the shallower slope so they line up with all ramps, and then changing the rest of this to the second variant so they match and they have that nice little bit of detail. You could also use the third variant if you prefer that little look, but yeah, that is what you should be filling in to get this result. Of course, here on the side we can actually change the doors to the third variant to once again get those grates. And we can take out the front hair skin and update these, or just use regular wood for the same kind of similar effect. We're almost there. First of all, we want to start the roof by changing these ramps to the third variant, because that has the little detail at the end of it, and we want to go across all the way until the end. Then we can change to the second variant and fill in the rest of the roof, which is basically just turning in these ramps into some nice looking roofs. I actually really enjoy these textures and like them being blue, but of course you can always paint them if you want to go for a little bit more of a different look instead. So repeat the same process here on the other side. So basically filling in the third variant at the very bottom of the roof or ramps, and then the rest of them is going to be the second variant instead, without the little detail at the end, because that's better suited at the edge of the roof. So we'll start filling all these skins in all the way through until the end like this. Then we are pretty much done, but there's one more detail that we could add. You could just leave it like this, but I do like to have a little beam across the top to kind of support it a little bit more. Of course, if you do have proper mods, you can use some different ones. I personally really like the Klinger Rustic variant for these pillars, which you can have through a proper mod or even a custom cosmetic. But otherwise, these Frontier ones actually do the job pretty nice as well. So you can also just go for these instead and just have a little bit of a beam going across the top like this. And there we go. That is actually this little temple design. So not too difficult, but with plenty of space on the inside for all of your stuff, and a little workshop area at the side, or maybe a place to park some of your tames instead, depending on what you need and what you want. But yeah, I do really like this design. It's quite simple. You can use all these new Greek textures quite nicely together. And of course, if you do have other mods, you can make it look even a little bit more special. So this is the stone variant. Let's look a little bit at the one that I built before, which has some slightly different textures, using a little bit more rustic structures from Klingers. But yeah, I think both versions work quite well. So there we go. This is my workshop. So it is quite similar, but you can see I painted the pillars. I used a little bit more wood in the design just to make it look a little bit more of a simpler, cheaper building rather than one of the main temples in the city. So yeah, you can see I've built it on a bigger platform as well, so I have some more room to walk around it. And we've got a little workshop area right here on this side with a bunch of forges, and then my main storage hall right here in the middle using the visual storage. But of course, you can also just make a wall of vaults and then have this little layer of ceilings, which is supported by these pillars to kind of lift up your vaults in different layers. But for me, of course, this is visual storage instead, but it works the same. And then we have more storage all the way around. But of course, you can also just use your proper base here. One of the good things is that you have some space left up here. Now you can either fill this in so you don't see it, or you can hide maybe your generator, some other stuff, and you can easily get up there by using just a grappling hook, or maybe fly up there. Or of course you could add in a little ladder, I suppose, if you really want to, but I'll leave that completely up to you. So there we go. That was it for my tutorial for this little temple with the Astraeos structures on the Astraeos map, although you can of course build these anywhere you want. If you enjoyed this build tutorial and you would like to see more, of course, feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. And then hopefully, I'll see you around in the next video. Goodbye.